Some of you might have seen the build video I did on my 3-node cluster. This is the follow-up, where we actually get into the software side of things, setting it up, running some self-hosted apps on the cluster, some of the pros and cons of using Proxmox, and whether this whole thing is actually useful. If I can actually make this thing work, the eventual goal is to turn this weird little thing into a DIY AI cluster. More on that later. But before we get into the nitty gritty, let's talk about two of the main comments from the last video. First up, and rather boringly, safety. Several people who are clearly more intelligent than myself pointed out the exposed 240 volt power supply. Which, yes, fair point, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know exposed mains voltage is a terrible idea. It was right about here, while editing the original video, that I realised I'd somehow completely forgotten about the exposed 240 volt power. Which is, to put it politely, quite an oversight. So to fix it, and to stop myself from having the forever sleep, I jumped into CAD, designed and 3D printed this guard that covers up the exposed terminals. Problem solved. And now, I'm slightly less likely to electrocute myself. Win-win. The second big theme in the comments was basically, but why? Or more specifically, what do you actually do with a cluster? And let me say this up front, 99.99% of people absolutely do not need a home cluster, myself included. Clusters really come into their own at a much larger scale. Data centres, enterprise infrastructure, serious production workloads, not three kind of old ThinkPad motherboards zip tied together in a shed. To answer the question of, but why? For me anyway, this is mostly about learning, experimenting, and seeing if it was actually possible. Editing Joe here. What I should have probably said about what do you actually do with a cluster is that most people using a cluster are either running loads of self-hosted apps and services, or using them for some sort of heavy compute workload, like rendering, simulation, or AI stuff. That sort of thing. Right, back to the video. Would a decent single PC do the same thing more simply than what I've built? Absolutely. But where's the fun in that? So with that out of the way, let's set this thing up. First thing in the setup process was getting Proxmox installed, which is actually relatively straightforward. Plug in the NVMe drive with Ventoy and the Proxmox ISO on it, boot each of the motherboards, follow the installer, job done. Or so I thought. My post-installation victory was immediately followed by networking issues. Not because the adapters were Amazon Basic ones, although I'm pretty sure they weren't helping the situation, but because they were actually USB Ethernet adapters in the first place. Proxmox kept trying to assign networking to my old Intel Wi-Fi, which I'd physically removed at this point. Basically, it wasn't picking up the USB Ethernet NICs, so I had to dive into the config files and manually swap the network interface over. Not terribly difficult, just not the kind of annoying problem you want at 10 PM in the shed on a Wednesday evening. Once that was sorted, I hit networking issue number 2. To log into Proxmox, you do it through your browser, and normally you just need to be on the same network. Simple enough, except my cluster lives in the shed, and my main PC lives in the house. Which means different routers. In my head, because the shed router sits downstream from the main house router, I thought surely I'd still be able to access the Proxmox web UI from inside the house. And I was wrong. So to fix that, Tailscale to the rescue. Installed that on all 3 nodes, and like magic I could access the cluster from my house. And at this point, I should probably say this. I don't work in IT, I don't have an IT background, I was a blacksmith for 10 years, which is about as far away from IT as you can get, and these days, I'm a CAD draftsman. So to any Proxmox experts watching this, be kind. This was only the second time I'd ever logged into Proxmox. The first time was about a year ago, and I very quickly decided I'd rather stick to Headless Debian and Portainer. So coming back to this, I was feeling slightly overwhelmed by the UI. After randomly clicking around like an absolute professional for a while, I started to get the hang of it. At least the basics anyway. So now, after what felt like a half marathon just to get to this point, I figured I should probably cluster the cluster together. Try saying that after some beers. Which is surprisingly straightforward. Create a cluster on the first node. Copy the cluster join information over to the second node. Then the third. And then rather unexcitingly, that's it. No fireworks, no fanfare, just a single UI showing all 3 nodes sat there on the top left. And this definitely got my nerdy senses tingling. I'd created a Proxmox cluster. But what now? So the short and long of Proxmox is it's either a virtual machine or a container. And now I'm massively oversimplifying this, and the IT people in the comments are already warming up the keyboards. But an easy way to think about this that works for me is the first option, a virtual machine, which you can think of like a detached house. It has its own foundations, its own walls, its own plumbing, its own electrics. It's a fully independent thing. So if I spin up an Ubuntu virtual machine, for example, it has its own kernel, its own operating system install, and when you create it, you choose exactly how much hardware you want to give it from your PC. So CPU cores, RAM, storage, the lot. Which is great, because it gives you proper isolation and flexibility. If you want to increase, say, RAM, or even take away CPU cores, you can. Or, if you want to run something a little bit weird, test another operating system out, or have something completely separate from everything else, a virtual machine is brilliant. But it does come with a downside, of course. It's heavier. Because you're effectively running a whole extra computer inside your PC that's already running Proxmox. And then the second option is a container. But these are a bit different. A container is more like a flat. Everyone has its own front door, own furniture, own fridge. But they all share the same building infrastructure, same foundations, same plumbing. That's basically what a container is. When you create one in Proxmox, you still decide how much CPU, RAM and storage it gets. But instead of spinning up a whole separate computer, it shares the underlying host system that Proxmox is running on, which means they're lighter, much faster to spin up, and generally, a fair bit less demanding on the hardware. So if you want to run some self-hosting apps like Pi-hole, Image, Jellyfin or Home Assistant to name a few, containers are brilliant. Now, this is where Proxmox gets fun. Because suddenly, instead of one machine doing one job, you can start slicing your hardware up into loads of little isolated chunks. One container for Pi-hole, one for Jellyfin, maybe even a VM running Windows, just to remind yourself how much better Linux Mint really is. So let's take a look at what I currently have running on my cluster. At the moment, Node 1 is running an Ubuntu virtual machine. Node 2 is handling Pi-hole and Image. Node 3 has Jellyfin and Uptime Kuma, which doesn't seem like much. And it isn't really. That's because this cluster isn't my main home server. Really, it's just a testbed. Or a digital playground if you'd rather. Moving on. One thing I should mention is shared storage. Because if you really want to do clustering properly, especially high availability clustering, all the nodes ideally need to have access to the same storage. That way, if one node dies, another node can pick up the workload. Proxmox supports this with Ceph storage, but Ceph really wants fast networking. My old motherboards are running 1GB Ethernet NICs, which, for high availability, Ceph storage just isn't ideal. You could probably get away with 2.5GB NICs in a small home setup, but realistically, 10GB networking is where Ceph storage really starts to make sense. So as you can all tell, my cluster isn't an enterprise high-grade availability monster, but rather a learning platform. That said, one of the genuinely cool things clustering gives you is live migration. Let's look at Node 1 on my cluster, currently running an Ubuntu virtual machine. But let's say I decide I want to upgrade the RAM on Node 1. Normally, that means shutting everything down. Downtime to allow me to remove the board, add more RAM, and then hook it all back up. But with live migration, I can move the Ubuntu virtual machine over to Node 2, and once that's moved, I shut down Node 1, physically remove it, add more RAM, and then reconnect it to the cluster. And then once it's up and running again, I can migrate the Ubuntu virtual machine back to Node 1, which I think is a pretty slick trick. But for now, I'm just enjoying the fact I've built an operation weird little mini data center in my shed. And now for the mic drop moment. If I'm honest, running self-hosting apps on this cluster was never really the end goal. Because what I actually wanted to do with this thing is something considerably more stupid, or brilliant, depending how you look at it. My plan is to take these 3 nodes, max out the RAM across the cluster, and see if I can split an AI large language model across them. Possibly a 70 billion one, but we'll see. Which I think sounds incredibly interesting, but it could turn out to be an excellent way to waste several weekends. I'm yet to find out. But before these get turned into an AI cluster, I'm going to do a Kubernetes cluster build using these Zimmer blades. That'll be my next video. So if any of this sounds interesting, I'll hope you stick around. Thanks for watching. Joe.